Hey, Christina here. Welcome to my crystal art series. I'll be sharing my story behind this piece, Beyond the Stream of Consciousness. Let's go. So, to show a little bit of what I was inspired by, this is basically my mood board, and everything that was coming to the surface when looking at the Celestite stone. The Celestite stone had a lot of really interesting shapes within the stone that was crystallized. So it made me think about bluebell flowers because of its shapes as well as its color. Hydragenas were another big one because the crystals in the stone were clustered, and it almost looked like a cluster of flowers, and I thought that was really beautiful. I also looked at the stones too, and each crystal kind of looked like frost, because when frost clusters as well, it has a very crystallized texture, same as ice. Ice has that same type of texture. So I was really gravitating towards this flower ice kind of relationship. And the color of the stone has like a sky blue feel, which really made me feel like it was springtime. Like that's a nice beautiful spring color, and it made me think about Easter and eggs, a new beginning type of feel, that we're transitioning from winter, which is this very cold time of year, not very colorful, it's very monotone, where now we're bringing in color, and that's when spring starts to come out, right? And we have different colors to explore. So I thought about that. I also thought about snowflakes and its beautiful details as well, because snowflakes have some clusters inside them that are crystallized. And I thought that was a really cool detail, and I wanted to somehow incorporate that into this piece. And overall, because the stone is this blue color, it made me think of the sky, the clouds, everything of higher power. So everything that's above me is higher consciousness, and that's kind of where I was drawing towards the thought of the state of consciousness graph. And this was something that I recently came upon through a coach that I was speaking to, and she presented me this state of consciousness graph, and I thought this was a great relationship in terms of what this piece could be. So I really want to play on the state of consciousness graph, as well as a spiral effect, because just to sum up the state of consciousness graph, it's basically a funnel, and it's kind of like a tornado funnel the way that it's explained, but at the very, very top of the funnel, where it's really wide, that is the higher consciousness. So the feelings of love, joy, gratitude, and those types of feelings help you expand. But anything down at the bottom of the funnel, which is very small and contained, and you feel very tight and limited, these types of feelings that are at the bottom of that funnel is the feelings of depression, guilt, shame, anger. There's no expansion there. So this piece is kind of tying into that type of analogy. So I called this piece Beyond the Stream of Consciousness, because this piece is about focusing in on finding your inner balance and sense of peace by channeling with your higher self to get you mindfully aware of the state of consciousness and recognizing your emotions so that you can understand your feelings and learn how to raise your vibrations, find clarity through meditation so that you can move up that funnel into the higher consciousness. Because right now at the bottom section of this piece is a sharp and cold feeling of depression. And basically, this leads up past the clouds into the higher state of consciousness, where the colors are warm and bright, the shapes are curvy and soft. We need to embody the feeling of love, gratitude, and joy. And we need to feel as light as a cloud, basically, in order to thrive and reach those goals that you would want to reach. And I know that it's difficult during this time, but this is what we need to enforce and encourage, because that's the way to get through this hard time. So that was my thought process and my story behind this piece. So I started this in Procreate on my iPad. I started with loose thumbnails to capture the composition. And I picked a cross composition, so a cross layout, because I wanted to emphasize the state of consciousness diagram from the low to high vibrations. So again, mimicking that graph that I was talking about. And first off, I really wanted to come in with a soft brush to mimic a dreamy sky. So using that sky blue from the actual stone and a lavender color to make a seamless gradation from the top to the bottom, because we're showcasing, the cool to warm type of feel, that transition. And I used the lasso tool to create sharp shapes and filling them in with different shades of indigo. And these shapes were from the ice, frost, and snowflake references, because I was showing that transition from the bottom where it's sharp and it's cold and it's edgy to that transition past the horizon and past the clouds into more of a softer, curvier, friendly kind of atmosphere. And still using the lasso tool, I drew a cloud-like shape to show the breaking point into the higher vibes. With that round brush tool, I mixed a pink blush with a lavender color for a nice blend. Overall, I made another shape and pretty much did the same treatment. And continuing on using that lasso tool, I took the inspiration from the Hydragenas and the bluebells to create an organic floral cluster above the clouds, and filling them in with warm magentas, yellows, purples, and blues from that Easter egg reference that I showed you in the mood board. So you can see that the flowers are getting larger and larger as the funnel gets bigger at the top. And this shows that you are living in the higher vibrations, you're blossoming and expanding as you become who you were meant to be. And also at the same time, living to your highest well-being. I added in also another shape in the distance to bring a sense of balance to this piece, because Celestite also tries to enforce balance within, reaching that higher state of consciousness, because that does take a lot of energy, and balancing that out really helps to stabilize yourself in terms of keeping to that level of feeling, love or gratitude, so that you don't drop. So again, that's that balance that we are trying to convey. So to finish off this piece, in the bottom section, I used a texture brush called Curvy to make it look frosty down below, and then a cloud texture brush in the top section for a more softer approach, and just showcasing the contrast again. And these were just basically framing the piece and drawing emphasis to the funnel and the breaking point where that transition and transformation happen. So now I took this into Illustrator and I set up my canvas, which was 8.5 by 11. I made 2 rectangle boxes 4 by 6 inches, and I put them side by side and found the middle of each of the shapes. So when I bumped them together, they made the middle. So I pretty much put the guide down the middle, and I made 2 L shapes in each of the corners of this shape, and I merged the 2 rectangles together to make one shape. And from there, I placed my image on the right side because that's the front of the card, and on the back I did the details, adding my logo and the name of the piece, etc. And from there I set it up as a PDF and it was ready to go for print. So I printed this piece on cardstock paper, and it's very nice paper to use for any kind of card that you would like to make, and it's a very stiff card, so it will hold its fold really nice. So I took this to my drawing board to score it, and basically the scoring board just creates an indent where the fold is, so that when you fold the card, it's a clean finish. And this blue utensil that I'm using helps to make that indent very clean and seamless. So once I did the scoring, I cut it down to actual size using those L-shaped marks in each of the corners of the rectangle. And when I cut that down, I used a bone tool, and this tool helps to clean up your folds. So you fold your card over and run the bone tool down the edge of the fold so that it holds in place. And lastly, just for a simple finish, I came in with silver metallic paint to highlight the horizon line in terms of the expression of the silver lining, for there's always hope and positivity in any negative situation. So using my finger to smudge some silver paint onto the petals for a magical feeling, because in that energy of high vibes, you feel the magic around you. And that's it, guys. That's my piece, and I really hope that you enjoyed the story behind it, and I hope that you stick around for more of my videos, and I hope you guys are staying healthy and safe. Keep smiling, guys. Bye.